You ever notice how people beg for signs, pray for direction, cry for clarity, then panic the moment it arrives? They say they want guidance, but when the command comes, close it, end it, walk away, suddenly they act deaf. They think strength is holding on, squeezing life out of something already gone cold. But sometimes the higher voice doesn't whisper possibilities. It slams doors, not gently, not politely, with a final click that echoes through your ribs. Closed chapters are protection, not punishment. That's the part nobody likes to hear. People always imagine the universe, fate, destiny, that unseen hand, as some benevolent storyteller who only gives beginnings dressed in sunlight. They think closure is cruelty. They treat endings like betrayal, as if life owes them a warning, a gentle exit, a farewell hug before it pulls them away from what they refuse to leave. But sometimes safety doesn't feel safe at first. Sometimes protection arrives disguised as loss, and people scream at the door that saved them because they don't yet see the fire on the other side. Funny, isn't it? How the human heart mourns familiarity, even when familiarity was quietly killing it. You'd think people would celebrate escape, freedom, a clean break. But no, they missed the cage because they decorated it nicely. They painted it with memories, framed their pain like artwork, convinced themselves comfort existed simply because they knew every crack of the walls. So when life rips them away, they don't thank fate for the rescue. They claw back toward the bars, mistaking familiarity for love, mistaking repetition for destiny. People pray for guidance, ask for signs, demand clarity, but reject the answer if it means losing something they were clinging to for security. They say, "One, give me growth," and then cry when growth demands pruning. They beg for strength, then panic when life starts cutting away the weakness they lived inside. They want transformation without transition, victory without sacrifice, new life without letting the old one die. They call endings harsh, but there's mercy in closure. Sometimes a slammed door is the only thing that stops a heart from walking into self-destruction again and again, smiling each time like a fool begging to be hurt. Think about it. If life never closed chapters for you, would you ever walk away from the wrong ones? No. You'd drag them along forever. Old habits, old wounds, old lovers, old dreams. You'd keep breathing the same stale air, convinced it's oxygen simply because it hasn't killed you fast enough to notice. That's the tragedy. Not losing, but clinging so tightly that loss becomes the only language the universe can use to speak. And when it speaks, it doesn't stutter, click, door locked, path cut, choice removed. You don't get to ruin yourself further. Not here, not anymore. But the screams that follow, the confusion, the bargaining, the why me. As if they weren't begging for change all along, just not like this. People want painless evolution. They want transformation that feels like a warm bath instead of a cold awakening. But real protection isn't comfortable. It's abrupt. It's decisive. It's the unseen hand slamming the brakes because you were steering toward a cliff, smiling like the road never ends. You think it's punishment, but it's mercy with sharp edges. You ever notice how the truth about a closed chapter only appears later? Months pass, maybe years, and suddenly the pieces line up. Suddenly you see what was hidden behind the scenes. The lies you didn't catch, the decay you ignored, the quiet betrayals, the opportunities you would have missed, the version of yourself you might have become if you stayed, and then you laugh or ache, realizing you weren't abandoned. You were rescued, dragged, maybe kicking and screaming, but saved all the same. Life didn't slap you, it shielded you, even when you mistook the shield for a slap. The irony is that pain often reveals protection faster than happiness ever could. You don't notice safety when you're wrapped in it, but you feel the absence of danger when distance finally lets you breathe without shaking. You begin to see the chapter wasn't closed to punish you. It was closed to stop you from punishing yourself with something too small, too broken, or too beneath the version of you that was quietly waiting to emerge. And yes, it stings when something ends before you're emotionally ready, but readiness isn't the measure. Necessity is. Life moves when you stall. Fate cuts ties when you hesitate. Doors close not when you want them to, but when they must, and there's a strange kind, of beauty in that harsh timing, because it means you're not abandoned to your impulses. Something bigger steps in when you refuse to leave the battlefield you already lost and drags you toward the future you wouldn't dare walk into alone. Closed chapters aren't punishment, they're protection in disguise. The world just prefers to wrap its lessons in discomfort, because the only way to get a human being to move, truly move, is to trap them in a place they can't return to. That's not cruelty. That's evolution wearing steel instead of silk. Pain is the sharp teacher that never asks permission, never knocks politely before entering. Oh no. It just kicks the door open, drags you by the hair, and throws you right into the truth you were too afraid to face. People want gentle lessons, pretty ones, wrapped in smiles and sunshine. But pain? Pain isn't here for comfort. Pain is here to carve, to reveal, to strip away illusions you lovingly built like a child stacking playing cards, thinking the tower would reach heaven if you just believed hard enough. Belief is sweet, but reality is ravenous. And when it's time to learn, sugar won't do. Life uses barbed wire instead of ribbons. And isn't it funny the way we fight it? The way we curse every heartbreak, every betrayal, every disappointment, like the universe personally offended us. The arrogance of pain. No, not pain. The arrogance of us thinking we deserve a smooth journey because our intentions were good. Since you tried, we whine. Good intentions don't grant immunity. Do you know how many tragedies were built on good intentions? People drown in sincerity every day, clutching love, trust, loyalty, flimsy little shields against the blunt force of life. Pain doesn't care what you meant. Pain cares what you need to become. You know what's funny? Nobody thanks pain in the moment. Oh no, in the moment we scream, blame, accuse life of sabotage. Like victims handcuffed by fate, we dramatize, we sigh dramatically at the skies. We whisper, why me? As if suffering should have chosen someone else. But time has a certain sense of humor. Give it months, years, and suddenly that ache that tore you apart becomes a scar you trace with pride. Survived. Suddenly the wound becomes a story, the story becomes power, and power becomes identity. Funny how pain transforms from monster to mentor once you stop bleeding. People try so hard to avoid hurt, like dodging raindrops in a storm, thinking if they just move fast enough, hide well enough, care little enough, they can stay dry. But life laughs at that. You can't escape being broken. You can only choose what breaks you, truth or illusion. One kills you slowly, the other breaks you open so light can crawl into places you kept locked out of fear. You can stay safe and small, untouched and untested, or you can shatter and rebuild into someone who knows their bones are stronger than their dreams ever imagined. Safety has never created greatness. Struggle has. Pain doesn't visit without a reason, even if you're too lost in your tears to see it. Sometimes it's there to rip away fake friends you were too loyal to leave. Sometimes to collapse a plan that would have ruined you slowly. Sometimes to shake your soul awake because comfort was turning you numb. Pain is the alarm clock that doesn't apologize for waking you. It's the fire drill in the burning building you didn't realize you were living inside. If life didn't hurt you, you'd sleep through your destiny, curled up in mediocrity like a child clutching a pillow, dreaming instead of rising. You notice how the strongest people laugh differently? A little too loud, eyes a little too bright, like they've seen the bottom of life and refuse to drown. You can feel it. Their humor isn't softness, it's survival dressed in a smile. Their confidence isn't arrogance, it's earned armor. Their quiet isn't weakness. It's the stillness of someone who no longer panics when the world shakes. Pain forged them. Pain cleaned the rust from their soul, burned away the illusions, taught them that feeling deeply doesn't make you fragile. Pretending not to feel does. Because the truth is, running from pain makes you weaker. Embracing it reforms you. People who avoid hurt become prisoners of fear, always tiptoeing, always guarding, always shrinking. But those who walk straight into it, who let it crack them open and rearrange their soul, they become untouchable. Not because they avoid suffering, but because they understand it. They've danced with darkness, held hands with heartbreak, and survived nights that didn't end at sunrise. You can't intimidate someone who already met destruction and shook its hand. Pain isn't punishment, it's revelation. It shows you who you are when everything you leaned on collapses. It shows you what matters, who matters, and who never did. It strips the noise, leaves only truth, raw, ugly, liberating truth. You grow faster in agony than in comfort. Flowers don't bloom in velvet rooms. They push through dirt, through pressure, through cold soil, toward a light they can't even see yet. We're no different. Hearts don't strengthen from being coddled. Minds don't sharpen from being praised. Souls don't rise without being dragged through a little hell first. And the sweetest irony? One day you'll look back at the pain that tried to ruin you and realize it rebuilt you instead. Courage. Such a glamorous word, isn't it? People love to toss it around like confetti. Trying to be brave, be fearless, face your destiny. Sounds poetic until life actually rips something out of your hands. Until someone you trusted walks away without a goodbye. Until the job you clung to evaporates. Until the plan you worshipped crumbles. Until a door slams so hard your ears ring and your heart forgets how to beat normally. Forced endings aren't pretty. They're not inspirational posters or heroic battlefield scenes. They're messy, painful, humiliating. They take your breath away, not like romance does, but like someone held your head underwater just to remind you you're mortal. And in that moment, courage suddenly isn't some shining knight on a noble horse. Oh no, it's shaking knees, trembling hands, a stomach full of fear, and a mind full of what now? It's ugly, raw, desperate. People think courage is loud. Strong speeches, bold moves, fireworks and drum rolls. But real courage is quiet. Real courage is when the world pushes you out of a room you beg to stay in, and you don't crawl back to the door scratching at it like a desperate animal. Real courage is when you whisper to yourself, "I didn't choose this, but I will choose who I become because of it." Unforced endings. They feel like rejection stamped by fate. They feel unfair. They feel cruel. But life doesn't end things to punish you. It ends them because you wouldn't move unless it shoved you. People cling to comfort like it's oxygen. They hold on to people who stopped holding them back. They cling to routines that numb them. They stay in rooms that have already gone dark because they'd rather sit in familiar shadows than walk into unknown light. Forced endings come when you refuse to walk away, so life does it for you. Not out of hatred, out of impatience, because destiny won't wait forever while you hold hands with yesterday. And the fear, oh, the fear, you feel like you're falling, like every safety net you trusted suddenly vanished. The mind loves security, even toxic security, but forced endings slice safety open like a balloon. Suddenly the air you depended on is gone and you're left gasping. That's where courage is born, not in celebration, in suffocation. Growth isn't gentle. It doesn't knock and ask if you're ready. It barges in, breaks the furniture and says, "Move." When courage is simply breathing in the chaos instead of begging for the old walls back. You see, endings are invitations, not executions. But in the moment, oh, they feel like death because a part of you is dying. The version of you that couldn't go further than the life you lost. Ego hates endings. Attachment fears them. But your future waits on the other side, tapping its foot impatiently, wondering how long you're going to cry over a chapter that served its time. Courage is the bridge between what was and what will be. And it's built with shaky decisions, lonely nights, and faith you have to force because you don't feel it yet. People think bravery means not feeling fear. No. Bravery means feeling everything. The panic, the grief, the confusion, and still stepping forward. Even if the step is tiny, even if you trip doing it, even if your voice cracks when you encourage yourself. Courage is not a roar. It's a whisper that refuses to die. It's the hand you place on your own heart saying, "We're not done yet." It's choosing forward instead of backward, even when backward begs you to come home. Even when backward feels safer. Even when backward smells like comfort and forward smells like smoke and uncertainty. Forced endings scrape away illusion. They show you who was real, who was temporary, and what parts of yourself you were only holding because they felt safe. They cut ties that would have suffocated you. Eventually, they knock down walls you outgrew. They expose strength that doesn't wake up until everything familiar burns down. And as terrifying as that fire is, imagine staying cold your whole life just because you were afraid to get burned. So when life slams a door so hard it echoes, don't rush to rebuild it. Feel the shock, feel the hurt. But don't you dare shame the pain. It's the midwife of your evolution. Forced endings aren't life abandoning you. They're life dragging you, kicking and screaming if necessary, into the next version of yourself. The stronger one, the sharper one, the one who finally understands that sometimes the universe doesn't wait for your permission to save you from smallness. And the funny part? One day you'll go back to that closed door, smile a little twisted smile, and realize it wasn't rejection, it was rescue. Funny thing about silence. People think it's empty. They hear quiet and assume nothing is happening, nothing is moving, nothing is being built. But the loud ones, the impatient ones, they don't understand the real magic. They think progress must make noise. They think growth needs applause. They think every step must echo. Meanwhile, the universe prefers whispers. It likes to work in the dark, behind locked doors, after chapters close and the lights go out. Trust doesn't bloom when everything is clear and controlled. Trust begins when the door shuts, the plan disappears, and you're left staring at a hallway with no map, no sign, no guarantee. Most people panic there. They pound on the closed door like prisoners begging their cell back, desperate for comfort, disguised as certainty. When life stops giving answers, something interesting happens. Your ego dies a little. That voice that used to shout, "I know what to do," suddenly stutters. Confidence turns to questions. Control slips through your fingers, and you're forced to rely on something far more unsettling than logic. Surrender, not the pathetic kind, not the throwing hands up dramatic surrender. No, this is the quiet surrender. The moment you stop fighting the ending and start accepting the unknown. It's uncomfortable, humiliating even, because you can't lean on your cleverness anymore. You can't predict, can't plan your way out. You just trust. And oh, how the mind hates that. It kicks, it screams, it bargains anything to avoid uncertainty. But there it is. Silence. The test no one can cheat. People only preach belief when they feel safe. They praise hope when the road is smooth. But real belief? Real belief shows up when you're blindfolded, pushed into a maze and told to walk anyway. When you can't see what's next, can't hear any sign, can't feel solid ground. Just that strange pull inside your ribcage saying, "Let go anyway." That's where trust begins. After certainty dies, after doors close so loudly your confidence cracks, after the world quiets and you feel abandoned by every plan you once worshipped, you think endings are punishment. But sometimes silence isn't abandonment. It's preparation. You can't hear new guidance if you're busy clinging to old noise. The strongest people you'll ever meet aren't the loud ones beating their chests, pretending they never doubt. They're the ones who learned how to walk unseen, unsure, uncelebrated, and still moved. They learned to breathe in uncertainty like oxygen. They learned to smile in the dark because they understood darkness isn't danger, it's camouflage. It protects what's growing before the world is ready to see it. Some doors shut not because you failed, but because success needs privacy first. Seeds grow underground before anyone claps for them. Caterpillars dissolve into nothing before wings form. Transformation looks like death right before it becomes life. And silence is the cocoon. You ever notice how people panic in quiet rooms? They need noise, chatter, validation, reassurance, like children afraid of the dark. But the wise ones, they sit in stillness with a kind of twisted comfort. They know silence doesn't mean stuck. They know nothing happening on the surface doesn't mean nothing's happening at all. They know timing is a trickster. Always late by your schedule, always perfect by its own. You can't rush what's meant to develop. You can't pry doors back open just because you're lonely or bored or scared. Forced silence isn't cruelty. It's training. You're learning to stop worshiping control. You're learning to trust what you cannot see, and that terrifies the part of you that always needed certainty to feel safe. People look for signs, flashing lights, mysterious messages, dramatic revelations, but sometimes the only sign you get is a closed door and the sound of your own breath. The question is simple. Will you trust when nothing makes sense? Will you hold your ground when your pride wants to run? Will you keep moving when the path disappears? That's where belief becomes real, not in comfort but in confusion, not in clarity but in chaos. Growth always asks the same question. Can you walk when you can't see? Silence isn't emptiness, it's instruction. Closed doors aren't rejection, they're redirection. And trust doesn't begin when you get answers. Trust begins when you stop demanding them. Because the moment you're forced into the dark, the moment you're stripped of certainty and choice and noise, that's when faith isn't a pretty word anymore. It becomes survival. It becomes strength. It becomes the quiet fire inside you that refuses to die just because the world went quiet first letting go. The most terrifying magic trick life forces us to perform. Not because it takes something from your hands, but because it dares you to open them. Humans cling to memories, to people, to versions of themselves that expired long ago. They grip loss like it's love, clutch familiarity like it's salvation. They hold so tightly to what once felt safe that their knuckles turn white and their spirit turns suffocated. And life, with its wicked sense of humor, whispers, "Sass, if you just open your fist, something new could fit there." But no, comfort seduces, nostalgia hypnotizes, and the past promises warmth while quietly draining you. People don't get trapped by cages. They get trapped by what they refuse to release. Funny, isn't it? How we beg for better but refuse to drop worse. We pray for change, then panic when something shifts. We ask for growth, then cling to the same habits like security blankets. We want new blessings wrapped in old routines. But life doesn't negotiate with fear. It removes what blocks your path, even if you call it precious. It pulls away people who are only meant for a season. It dissolves identities built on survival, not destiny. And when life takes, we scream betrayal, not realizing we were worshiping limitations the whole time. Release doesn't feel like freedom at first. It feels like grief disguised as emptiness. Oh, emptiness, what a misunderstood space. People rush to fill it, drown it, distract it, run from it. They think emptiness means failure, abandonment, punishment, but emptiness is simply room. Room for better, room for true purpose, room for stronger hands, wiser hearts, bigger dreams. The universe loves to clean before it delivers. A closed hand can't receive, a crowded life can't expand. And yet we treat clearing as loss. We mourn what held us down. We romanticize our chains because they once felt warm. Letting go isn't weakness. Holding on to what's killing you is. But look at the world. Everyone clings. They clutch success so tightly they become slaves to it. They hold relationships past their expiration and call it loyalty. They grip beliefs that no longer fit and call it identity. They drag chapters that ended and wonder why they bleed. The cruel joke? You can't step into your future while dragging corpses from your past. Release isn't abandoning something. It's acknowledging you've outgrown it. Only fools believe every door deserves to stay open. Some were only built to be walked through once. And here's the twist. Letting go isn't always chosen. Sometimes life pries your fingers open, one painful crack at a time. It removes people you thought you needed. It shatters plans you swore were perfect. It forces change through loss, like ripping off masks you didn't know you were wearing. You think you're being punished, but really you're being emptied. And emptiness feels like death until something new rises. But most people never get there because they rush back to what hurt them simply because it's familiar. They reopen closed doors like addicts chasing yesterday. But you, if you really want the life whispering to you in your sleepless nights, you must surrender the one that weighs on your ribs. You must unclench your soul, let habits die. Let relationships fade without clawing at closed exits. Let identities burn so a truer one can form from ash. Let silence replace noise. Let endings breathe. You don't lose by releasing. You lose by holding what's gone. The universe cannot steal from you. It only trades. But you can't receive the trade if your hands are locked around ghosts. There's a strange peace in letting go. At first it feels like falling, then like floating, then like flying. The moment you remove what wasn't meant to stay, life doesn't just add, it overflows. But not before testing you, not before seeing whether you trust enough to stand in the void without running back to your past. Replacements don't arrive while you cling. They arrive when you finally exhale, when you stop negotiating with endings, when you stop dragging what tried to leave. Release isn't losing. Release is clearing space for what's overdue to arrive, and the moment you let go of what once felt necessary, that's the moment something greater starts moving towards you, almost amused that you held on so long to something so small. Results. Everyone wants them. They worship the finish line like it's a throne. They crave the applause, the recognition, the moment they finally get to say, "See, I was right." But here's the part nobody likes to talk about. Results don't show up for the loud. Results don't bow to the desperate. Results don't come for those who scream their dreams into every ear they find, hoping validation will speed things up. Results belong to the disciplined, the quiet, the ones who don't need to announce every move just to soothe their insecurity. Funny, isn't it? The world thinks success is loud, but real results walk in silently and rearrange the room without saying a word. Words are cheap. That's the hidden joke. Anyone can declare ambition. Anyone can boast about their plans, swear they're destined for greatness. People love to sound powerful because sounding powerful feels easier than actually being powerful. They say, just wait until you see me, as if talking builds empires. But dreams don't respond to voices, they respond to commitment, to sacrifice, to sweat and solitude and hours spent unseen. There are people who treat ambition like a costume, flashy to wear but uncomfortable when it's time to actually move. They talk because talking is safer than doing. Doing exposes you. Doing tests you. Doing is where fantasies go to face truth. And truth is cruel in the beginning. It demands patience. It demands humility. Results don't come when you want them to. They come when you've earned them with your silence, your consistency, your refusal to quit, even when nothing seems to be happening. Oh, that part is delicious. The waiting, the part where everyone else thinks you're wasting your time, where the world doesn't clap, where the progress isn't visible, where you start questioning whether you're delusional or destined. Most people break right there. They abandon the journey because it didn't perform quickly enough for their ego. But those who endure, they look almost insane in the process, quietly grinding, willingly misunderstood, choosing pressure over popularity. They don't need crowds cheering their beginnings because they know crowds only show up at the finish. They know silence isn't emptiness, it's incubation. They know solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. And while others chase attention, they chase mastery. While others talk about their goals, they sculpt theirs in private. And one day, not suddenly but inevitably, results show up like a shadow behind them, heavy, undeniable, impossible to ignore. You ever see someone who succeeded after everyone doubted them? They don't need to scream, they don't need revenge speeches or dramatic monologues. They just exist, and their success speaks louder than any insult thrown at them. That's the thing. Silence breeds a power that noise can never imitate. When your results speak, your critics choke on their own opinions. When your results speak, the same mouths that mocked you try to praise you. When your results speak, the world rewrites its memory, pretending it always believed in you. People are predictable like that. But here's the twist. Results aren't just outside rewards. They're internal first. The discipline you build, that's a result. The version of yourself that emerges after sacrifice, that's a result. The clarity, the resilience, the self-control. Oh, those are the real trophies. And they can only be earned in silence. Noise builds ego. Silence builds character. Noise impresses strangers. Silence transforms you. And once you're transformed, the world has no choice but to respond. Results don't need a microphone. They need consistency. They need patience sharper than pride. They need action without applause, movement without validation, decisions without spectators. You want people to believe in you? Show them, don't tell them. Better yet, don't show them until it's too late for them to doubt. Nothing frightens the world more than someone who didn't seek permission yet arrived anyway. Someone who disappeared into the shadows only to return unrecognizable, powerful, polished, undeniable. So go ahead. Let others talk. Let them boast. Let them announce every tiny step like it's a revolution. Let them chase approval while you chase achievement. Let them laugh at your silence, mistake it for weakness, confuse quiet with quitting. They won't laugh for long. They never do. Because results have a wicked sense of timing. They always show up right when the doubters get comfortable. And when they finally arrive, when your progress stands taller than excuses. When the reality of your work eclipses every rumor and every doubt, you won't need to say a word. The world will speak for you. The same voices that once whispered your limitations will suddenly repeat your name with awe, curiosity, fear, respect, and just a touch of regret for ever thinking you needed noise to matter. Everyone loves the idea of a fresh start, new life, new destiny, new level, right? Sounds beautiful, inspiring, like a sunrise in a storybook. But here's the uncomfortable secret. New beginnings don't happen when you want them. They happen when you become someone the old world can no longer contain. And oh, that transition, it's messy, it's violent. It's a quiet war in your own skin. People don't talk about that part. They like to pretend rebirth is gentle. Meditation sounds, candlelight, a little journaling, maybe a motivational quote on the wall. Cute fantasies. In truth, transformation feels like tearing your own identity apart and sewing a new one together with bleeding fingers. Everyone wants the reward. Nobody wants to kill the version of themselves that was only built for survival. You can't step into a new chapter while dragging the corpse of who you used to be, yet most people do exactly that. Hauling trauma like luggage, clutching their insecurities like heirlooms, carrying resentment like a trophy. They say they want new life, but they refuse to bury the old one. They want change without sacrifice, evolution without ego death, destiny without letting go of who they were when they settled. Funny creatures. They think they can upgrade while staying the same model. Growth demands violence, but not against others, against your own limitations. You don't rise by fighting the world. You rise by fighting the version of yourself that comfort created. The version that flinches, hesitates, panics, seeks approval, avoids risk, bows to fear. That version served you once, sure. It kept you alive in chaos, helped you survive what broke you. But survival and evolution are different beasts. You can't worship your coping mechanisms and expect to outgrow them. Security blankets turn into straitjackets if you cling too long. Safety soon becomes suffocation, and the universe watches, waiting to see if you'll choose the familiar cage over unfamiliar freedom. New beginnings don't feel like beginnings. They feel like endings dressed as loss. You lose friends who loved your smallness. You lose habits that kept you numb. You lose pieces of identity that once felt like home but were really cages with nice wallpaper. And you mourn them even when they destroyed you. Humans grieve comfort before they celebrate transformation. That's the rule. They cry over old skin before they grow new muscle. They ache for the past before they step into the unknown. They confuse nostalgia for love, weakness for loyalty, and fear for instinct. They cling until life peels their fingers back one by one. Starting over isn't glamorous. It's lonely. It's quiet. It's walking away from applause because you finally realized applause wasn't progress. It was seduction. It's becoming a stranger to the world so you can become familiar with your potential. It's choosing discomfort over distraction. It's burning bridges not out of anger, but because the road ahead doesn't need them. You don't evolve by returning to what wounded you. You evolve by outgrowing it so thoroughly that going back would feel like wearing broken bones as jewelry. And the world? Oh, the world won't clap for you when you transform. Not at first. They'll mock your silence, misread your distance, call you cold, arrogant, delusional. They'll say you've changed like it's an accusation, rather than the highest compliment evolution can earn. They'll try to pull you back, not because they hate you, but because your growth exposes their stagnation. Your wings offend people who fear heights. Your evolution threatens people who only ever learned how to crawl. Let them chatter. Let them cling to small rooms. You're not destroying bridges. You're leaving doorways too narrow for the person you're becoming. New life doesn't introduce itself politely. It arrives after confusion, after heartbreak, after isolation. It crawls out of silence, built by discipline and doubt and tiny choices no one ever saw you make. And then one morning, without applause, without announcement, you wake up different, not louder, sharper, not happier, stronger, not fearless, but willing. And that's the moment new life begins. Not when the world sees your change, but when you can no longer pretend to fit back into who you were.